Hello everyone and welcome back to Newsfist. The UK government is in a crisis. Oh my god, I have not seen it so bad in, well, forever. I mean, I've been studying politics for something like 4 years now, which is not a lifetime, but it's long enough, and I have not seen a shit show of this magnitude in the entire time I have been observing the UK political scene. So let's get into it. As you can see here, the Conservative government is absolutely getting destroyed. Liz Truss came in as the new Prime Minister, replacing Boris Johnson, who was removed for reasons I'm still not entirely sure why Boris got removed. Obviously he collected a few scandals through his tenure, but this is nothing unusual for any politician. Yes, he was like having a drinks party while everyone was locked down, but no one really seems to care. I mean, I have not come across anyone who is like, oh, the reason that we hate Boris Johnson is, because he was having some drinkies while, lockdown was going on. So there seems to be some kind of deeper agenda at play here. The word on the street is that Boris may have not gotten with the program. He was not willing to go along with his master's wishes. But we don't really know. He was removed, and Liz Truss became the new Prime Minister, and holy crap, look at what has happened to the ratings of the Conservatives since then. They have gone through the floor. Liz Truss's approval rating is now 12%. 70% of people in the UK disapprove of her job. Now that is shocking. I mean, just look at these numbers, right? In September, basically when she was like put in, she already had a 36% disapproval rating, but neither sort of faction was 33%. So 33% of people didn't really know or care either way. And now the number of people who don't know or care is down to 16%, only marginally higher than the number of people who approve of her tenure. A 70% disapproval rating is the kiss of death in politics, and we'll go into exactly what happened. So, this is quite a complicated story, so I will sum it up for you. Truss got in and appointed Kwasi Kwarteng as the Chancellor. They then decided that the way to improve Britain was to cut corporation tax, try and get a inflow of foreign direct investment into the UK, which seemed like a good idea. However, at exactly the same time, she instituted a policy whereby the government would have set a price floor for energy for 2 years. They basically guaranteed that no household would pay more than £2,500 a year. Now, it's not said much by the chattering classes, and I don't know why they have basically missed this fundamental point, although Kwarteng's replacement brought it up briefly. But the government essentially made a massive open-ended commitment by doing this, right? This is the problem with price fixing, which is what this was. So basically price controls, and as anyone who has studied communism knows, price controls are a bad idea. The government essentially said that no matter how high energy prices go, they would pay the difference between that and the £2,500 cost to each household. How high could energy prices go? Nobody knows. This, of course, is the bloody problem. No one can predict the future. It was essentially like the UK government taking out a massive futures position in the gas market, in the electricity market, without any domestic supply in order to ensure that this would not completely blow up in their face. And the markets reacted very, very badly. Interest rates on bonds shot up. All of the market was like, this is a very, very stupid idea. And at the same time as they were doing that, they decided that they were going to cut taxes at the same time. Everyone focuses on the corporation tax cuts, but that was not the real reason the markets reacted so badly. The Bank of England then had to spend £98 billion shoring up the pound. So UK bros, next time the government says, oh, we can't afford to, give people money on furlough. Oh, we can't possibly afford to increase social credit or, universal income or whatever the hell they call it. Just remember that in a week they printed $98 billion pounds to shore up the pound. So it's not that they don't have the money. They're just, very selective on where they spend it. Now, I suspect what happened behind the scenes is that Jeremy Hunt, the new Chancellor of the Exchequer, yes, him with the psycho eyes. Look at those eyes, ladies and gentlemen. Is that the eyes of a man that you would trust? He creeps me out. I'm saying it up front. That guy creeps me out. There is something extremely unsettling in his eyes. I can't exactly put my finger on it, but woof. Me no likey. So that my suspicion is that it was Jeremy Hunt who came in and basically cleaned up this mess. He's got lots of contacts with the Bank of England committee and all of the monetary gremlins who would have helped to clean this mess up. And I believe that that Liz Truss is now essentially beholden to him for doing this job. If Truss steps out of line, Hunt can come out and basically leak the entire sordid story of how Liz Truss nearly crashed the UK economy and he had to step in and fix it up. The scale of the about face that Truss was forced to make is basically revealed in what Jeremy Hunt said when he became Chancellor of the Exchequer. Liz Truss was keeping her head down for a few days, and it seems like Jeremy Hunt is now basically crafting economic policy for the UK, which is scary for a number of reasons. Not just his psycho eyes, but also his rather important links to China. His wife is very, very closely connected to the CCP and the Confucius Institutes. He has been investigated for monetary ties to China, I believe, allegedly. And he is now the person who is running UK economic policy. And what was Hunt's prescription to fix the mess? Well, basically, bin all the tax cuts. Say that the energy cap thing will come to an end in April. I mean, probably a good thing. The amount of money that the government is going to spend on this winter is literally an unknown quantity. It could be hundreds of billions potentially. I mean, this is the problem. Nobody knows. And now that the government has made this commitment, anyone who is trying to screw over the UK can merely apply pressure to upwardly move energy prices, knowing that the government has to pay them. And this is a situation that no government wants to be in. Indeed, in a way, this is how George Soros managed to short the pound. When you introduce an artificial peg between two things, whether that is, the pound and gold or the pound and the dollar or, two currencies, if the peg does not move, you can put pressure on it until it breaks. And this is the problem that the government is going to be facing. If energy prices rise high enough, the government is going to be forced to print an ungodly amount of money, which is going to be bad, or abandon the price peg at exactly the worst time when it is going to affect everyone, which is also going to be horrific. So no wonder Labour, those commie bastards, are salivating in the wings. They are just waiting for the next shoe to drop. There is discussion in the Conservative Party about replacing Liz Truss without an election. Apparently they can change the rules and just parachute someone new in. Top contender at the moment seems to be either Suella Braverman, who is the Home Office Secretary at the moment, Rishi Sunak, who got beaten out in the original round. He's the very, very, World Economic Forum kind of like guy. Or possibly Ben Wallace, who is the Defense Secretary, who is so pro-Ukraine that he got pranked by a bunch of Russians on a phone call saying that basically he would give Ukraine everything up until nuclear weapons. And I believe he said something like, look, we can talk about that later. Whether he was being diplomatic or not, it is hard to say. So, if Labour does get in, this is what we can expect. I have another video racked up at the moment talking about the new Climate Change Commission report and how they have taken the lessons of COVID and used them to craft a new social engineering policy to get everyone to eat the bugs. Yes, it's not going to be so much of a question of whether you want climate dystopia, but more, would you like it next week or would you like it tomorrow? Labour, of course, saying once they get in, there will be all kinds of climate goodies. There will be no nuclear power. There will be no gas. There will merely be solar panels, windmills, and poverty. Can't wait. I'm just, really, really, really looking forward to it. Will this Truss survive? This is the current question swirling around UK politics at the moment. I suspect that she might, actually, with Jeremy Hunt there to hold her hand, and if she sort of keeps her head down until some other crisis comes along to take her off the news cycle, the war will probably provide some kind of major event that will take everyone's eye off the ball. She may stay there for a while. But the Conservative Party, like a massive lumbering beast, has been mortally wounded. Stumbling around, shedding opinion polls like spurts of arterial blood everywhere. And as you may know, if you have watched the way the two-party system works in a fundamentally ungovernable state, both of the two parties have a go until they screw it up, because of course it is inevitable, because you can't possibly rule under this kind of system, at which point the other people take over and do it for a while until they screw up, and then it goes back and forward, and you don't really get any meaningful change, because the government is really there to do all the unpopular stuff and get blamed for it, and sort of not really inform people that there are wider forces, such as the market, that government has no control over, because the government doesn't really sort of like to say to people, oh yeah, we can't really control that, because then people are like, well, why the hell are we voting for you? Why the hell are we voting if we can't get any actual meaningful change? Don't say that, of course. Everybody knows that a two-party democracy is the best system, because eventually nothing happens. I don't know. Well, I'm sure, the approved things happen, like more climate change policies. They are definitely approved, so they will happen. Things like more personal liberty, I don't believe they are approved, so they absolutely will not. Of course, we could always see some kind of an upset. We have Reform and UKIP. Hang on. UKIP and Reform are basically the same thing, I believe. Or is that... there's a bunch of new political parties swirling around. They all have these like one-word names, like Reform and Reclaim and Heritage and stuff like that, led by sort of minor media personalities. Although I don't know, Nigel Farage is leading the Reform Party, I believe. He's hardly minor, but he is a little bit in the wilderness. If there is another election, these smaller parties could indeed start sponging up larger sections of the voting populace that are very annoyed with what is happening. At the height of their popularity, the Brexit Party was polling at about 23%, which is a significant chunk of votes. Not a large enough chunk to win by themselves, but definitely a large enough chunk to influence the other two major parties. Farage famously, of course, gave up his position at the Brexit Party and gave all of those votes to the Conservatives for reasons that apparently cannot be talked about. I was chatting with one of the people from Reform Party over the weekend, and they said the story of this is complicated, and they couldn't tell me any more about it. Interesting. Anyway, if you enjoyed this, please like, share, subscribe. If you're on Odyssey, support us by sending some Odyssey coins. Click the support thing, and we'll see you soon with the results of the Climate Change Commission and what they're going to force you, persuade you, nudge you, psychologically manipulate you into doing for the good of the planet. Don't you want to do things for the good of the planet? You're not a bad person, are you? Yes, stay tuned. Good night.